Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the El Toro's podcast, exclusively now on Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Here, let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on things like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast, which is always a plus, with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast right at your fingertips and in one place. I can't believe it took me this long to switch over to Anchor.fm, but I couldn't be happier now. So, get yourself started and download the free Anchor app now, or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
Finest professional wrestling from the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region, Capital Wrestling.
Welcome everyone to the Capital Wrestling Podcast, Episode 9. I'm your host, Sean O'Brien. You can find us here every Wednesday afternoon, 12 o'clock. At soundcloud.com/LTorospodcast. You can also find us on Twitter at Capital Wrestling without the G. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Neutron. Feel free to go to capitalwrestling.weebly.com to catch up on all our information and cards, the roster, news, merchandise, and you can also buy tickets right now at brownpapertickets.com. Just search Capital Wrestling live at Cathedral Hall, and there's all sorts of ticket packages there with trading cards, t-shirts, and very autographed posters and everything included. So there's all sorts of things there. You can check that out. And right now we're about to get to a big show. We're going to have two special guests. Later on we're going to talk to the Beau show, Beau Crockett, and about his deep ties with the NRA, National Wrestling Alliance. But first we're going to talk to a very special guest. He is the current House of Glory champion. He was trained by Amazing Red. He's a PW Insider Best Newcomer nominee. He calls himself the Rick Sanchez of Move Innovation. He is the Rogue, Anthony Gangone. How's it going, Anthony?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. What you been up to?
Just around and working every weekend and multiple times a weekend, and trying to get back out there as much as possible.
Yeah, and then where's that drive come from?
Well, I mean, this is something I want to do since I was 4, and it's pretty much been in my life, since I've been in existence. So, I've been working pretty hard at it for the past 5 years, and there's been a lot of bumps and bruises and stops and goes and stuff like that. But right now, I'm pretty focused on recapturing everything that I've had before and moving on to bigger and better things as well.
And you mentioned at 4 years old, knowing that's what you wanted to do. What really inspired that passion in you at 4 years old? Who was it what wrestlers or?
Well, oddly enough, most people probably won't believe this considering my wrestling style, but The Ultimate Warrior was actually my favorite growing up, and it was actually towards the third run he had in WWE. So it was in like 96, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, I guess the war paint and the tassels kind of captured my imagination as a child, and I went back and watched his better run, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. Just went from there, I guess.
And, I mean, you mentioned him, I guess, having a different style than you. What is your style? How would you describe it, and who did you look to kind of emulate in terms of your style?
Well, I mean, a lot of people kind of put me in a box when it comes to style, but for me, the way I see it, I'm a hybrid, mm-hmm. and I can wrestle any type of style. Like, if I need to high fly that night, I'll fly. If I need to be a technical wrestler, if I need to be a hard-hitting wrestler, whatever I see fit for that night as far as strategy, mm-hmm. is what I'm going to do. So I don't really put myself in a box when it comes to that kind of thing. But a lot of of my stuff, it ranges from the old school stuff to, 06 to '09 Ring of Honor kind of style, and then obviously submission stuff and MMA influenced a little bit. So.
Well, you do call yourself the Rick Sanchez of move innovation, correct?
Yes, I do, because it's completely true.
Mm-hmm.
Because unlike other wrestlers, I try to come up with a lot of my stuff. That's not to say that I haven't used other people's things or borrowed other people's things, but as far as like the way I like to do things is like to come up with my own moves, and like my finisher right now, the Dreams by the Waterfall is my invention, and for me, I think it's the best new move to be created in the past, 5-10 years.
And what do you make that so special?
Well, I mean, it's the it's like a reverse go to sleep, like kind of pretty much from a torture rack position,
Mm-hmm.
and to being in that position, probably is not expecting my knee to come, because I virtually have to turn my body up as they're falling to the mat and nail them with my knee. So I think for me, it's a very pretty and devastating move, and it always gets a reaction from the crowd, and usually it gets me the win.
And do you have to work on the accuracy with it, or was that a little hard at first when you were first starting it?
Well, I used to do a move that ended up with my opponent kind of hitting the mat face first, and I kind of was looking at my old stuff, trying to figure out something new I could come up with, and then I thought to myself, like, what if I added a knee with that maneuver? And I did it for the first time, I think, in Maine, and I got a great reaction and almost got me the win. And from there, I perfected it, and now no one ever kicks out from it.
Is it ever a little more difficult if you have a guy who's a little heavier, or like a bigger heavyweight or something?
Well, I mean, obviously, if the guy's heavier, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but I was able to do it thus far to, I guess the heaviest person would have been Joe Gacy,
Mm-hmm.
which was the CZW champion right now, and I was able to get him up and really almost break his nose with my knee on that one, but
Oh, wow.
the victory, got me the victory that night, and a win over the CZW champion.
And that is definitely a crowning achievement right there. And you said, guys are borrowing things from people, and I think it's at some point there's a fine line between, I guess, like flattery of using what somebody's already made famous, but also, like you said, innovating, and also you don't want to overdo it with copying people, and you want to add your own flavor to everything.
Yeah, correct. I mean, when I first started wrestling, I didn't know, you try to find yourself, but I kind of was copying people more than trying to find myself. And then one day, two wrestlers came up to me and they asked, "Oh, you're a big fan of this wrestler?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Well, you kind of do too much of his stuff." And then from that day on, I kind of tried to find my own way. And right now, I'm pretty satisfied with everything that I do.
You mentioned find your own way. What was the first step in finding wrestling training and going from there?
I guess I just was out of high school, and I always knew that it was something I wanted to do and try, and I didn't think it was possible before high school. But now being in the business, I realized that you could probably start earlier. It's probably not the smartest idea as far as your body, but anyway, so 18, I went to a wrestling school in Long Island, and financially I couldn't really crunch the numbers, and then about a year later, I found House of Glory, and I started there, and within 6 months, I had my first match.
So you said you were training with House of Glory for 6 months?
Well, I've been there, I've trained there, and that's like my home base, or was my home base, for years and years. But it took me 6 months to have a match on the Indies.
And what's the atmosphere like? How would you describe House of Glory to people who aren't familiar with it?
flying maneuvers because the head trainer obviously is Amazing Red.
Mm-hmm.
And though he's famous for the X Division style, he's actually one of the smartest people I've met in professional wrestling, and he has a great mind on his head, and he's a big fan of the old school kind of stuff. And when you train, there's a lot of cardio, a lot of calisthenics. He's gonna try to tire you out. As long as you can stick with it, you'll be able to succeed, in my opinion.
While you do the stuff through the air, it's also he teaches you how to be technical as well, correct?
Well, that's later on, but yeah, I mean, he's very, he literally has been all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and he's learned all these different styles and how to maneuver your body in a certain way when it comes to the aerial stuff. But yeah.
And you speak of going all over the world. Where's one location that sticks out to you that you've really enjoyed wrestling, and where's a location you've wanted to wrestle that you haven't been to yet?
Well, the place that I haven't been to yet is Japan or the UK. One of those two, I would really like to, within the next year or so, go over there and apply my trade over there and try to learn something and see how well my skills are compared to those wrestlers there. And then, honestly, I can't really think of a place. I guess New York
Mm-hmm.
City, just because where I'm originally from, and it's, I guess in a sense it's home.
And then what part of New York are you from?
I was originally from Queens.
Mm-hmm. A hotbed right there. Lots of talent in the New York area, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why now with Capital Wrestling coming about, it's getting a chance to highlight a lot of that talent right there. And I guess was it with Matthew Ryan that you became in touch with Capital Wrestling?
Yeah, I've known Matt for a couple of years now, and I was asked by the higher-ups to see if we can work something out, and unfortunately I wasn't able to work something out for the first show, but this show works out for my schedule and their schedule. June 3rd is the first night that I'll be there.
And have you gotten a chance to see some of the matches from the first show or the build-up to it?
I've seen some episodes, I guess they're putting out. I've seen some stuff from the episodes, and I've seen some matches and some interviews and stuff like that.
And they actually showed your match versus Bull James a few weeks ago.
Oh yes, I'm aware of that.
So it's definitely good to get the awareness up to you as well. And what do you think about their brand identity and the unique nature of the promotion?
Well, I think that it's something, to create something new, you have to kind of go back to the roots, to tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Capital Wrestling is kind of doing that. But within a few shows, I feel like they'll create their own identity. I feel like the old school way is their foundation, and from that, they're going to be able to sprout something old but new at the same time.
Now, what are your thoughts on the roster when you were signed with Capital Wrestling?
It's definitely a unique roster. I would say it's very different from most of the rosters that I'm a part of within the city or the tri-state area. There's a lot of names that I haven't been necessarily in the locker rooms with a lot, and there's a lot of guys I would like to see how my skills would go against them.
And then this debut, you're going to be wrestling Maxwell Jacob Feinstein. What are your thoughts on him as an opponent?
Well, he's a very cocky individual, and he's been given a lot in wrestling, and not saying that he hasn't necessarily earned things, but something about him at times kind of bothered me, the way he kind of looks at wrestling and the way he goes about things. He beats you up, and then he kind of laughs in your face when he does it, and that kind of bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what can we expect when you guys get in the ring?
Well, I'm probably going to do the one thing I guess no one else has done, and I'm probably going to humble him because he kind of needs it. And for Max, I feel like once he gets humbled, once he takes a look at himself after the match, then he can become a better all-around professional wrestler and actually respect the art that he has the privilege of being in. Not the right, but the privilege of being in.
And you call yourself the Rogue and the One Above All. Where did those monikers come from?
Well, the Rogue is, I feel like in wrestling there's a lot of people that try to put you in a box, and they try to, like, okay, what are you? And, you know, what's your gimmick per se? And it's just like, oh, well, I'm a fireman or I'm a construction worker who happens to wrestle on the weekends. But that's not me. I'm not put into this box that kind of wrestling has created. I do my own thing. I do what I want, when I want, however the hell I want. And if you don't like it, then whatever. Like, I'm not gonna stress about it. And the One Above All, that's mainly for House of Glory because I pretty much have done everything there. I've the first ever Triple Crown champion. I've every person that's been in the ring with there, I have elevated just because they've been in the ring with me or they've been associated with me. And at House of Glory, I'm pretty much, in my opinion, I'm pretty much a god, and that's why I'm the one above all. The one above all.
And that's the kind of confidence it takes to succeed in this business. You know, what about the branding aspect of it, and I guess the mask and how does that all play into part as part of your brand?
Well, I mean, Anonymous was a pretty big deal. I want to say in like 2012 or so, and I mean, I guess it still is today, but it was more prevalent back then. But so I kind of like the Rogue, and I kind of trying to find out the branding for myself. And I took the mask and I kind of made it my own image. I kind of talked to TJ Marconi and Darius Carter, who were a part of the Crusade for Change, and I asked them if I could do something similar. And then ultimately, about a year or two later, I actually became a member of the Crusade for Change. And then we became undefeated at Beyond Wrestling for a year. We were like 12 or 13-0. And from that sprouted the idea of the House of Gangone, where I make my associates wear my face, my image, not the Guy Fawkes mask, but my image. Through me, they'll be able to get higher and get booked on the shows, the House of Glory shows.
Well, I mean, you definitely sound like you've blazed your own path, and while you want to look at other styles and stuff, you can't put yourself in a box, and that's really admirable, to say the least.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I just want to say, thanks for coming on the show today and spending time with us, and we look forward to seeing you at June 3rd at Cathedral Hall from Jersey City. Are there any other shows or things you got lined up coming up?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much all over every weekend. I'm all over the East Coast, but I guess the next big show I'm at is House of Glory, May 27th, where I'll put the House of Glory Championship on the line. As of right now, I don't really have an opponent, but it could be Cody Rhodes, could be Bobby Fish, could be Kyle O'Reilly, could be Leo Rush. I don't know, but we'll see.
I mean, that means you're able to adapt, especially to all those various guys and their different styles as well.
Yeah, I'm not worried about anybody. I'm prepared for anybody.
And that's what it takes. Once again, I want to thank you for coming on. And where can fans find you, like social media and
Okay, well, I have a Facebook and I have a Twitter. I don't have an Instagram, Snapchat, all that other stuff. But it's at either /House of Gangone or at House of Gangone.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but after the break, we're going to talk to the National Wrestling Alliance's Beau W.P. Crockett and about his debut on June 3rd at Cathedral Hall in Jersey City. Stay tuned.
You can watch Capital Wrestling every single Saturday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern on the Guys from Queens digital network at gfqnetwork.com. You can also listen every Monday at 12:30 p.m. on PivotShare at capitalwrestling.pivotshare.com. Also, every Wednesday on Facebook.com/Capital Wrestling and the Capital Wrestling YouTube channel. Capital Wrestling, old school wrestling for the modern fan.
Welcome back to episode 9 of the Capital Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Sean O'Brien. You can catch us here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. I want to thank Anthony Gangone for coming on earlier, the Rogue, talk about his career and what's inspired him, and now that he's going to be joining the debut on June 3rd at Capital Wrestling. But there's also more to look forward to, other debuts on the card. My next guest, you might know him from Fusion Pro Wrestling, Next Evolution Pro Wrestling, CWF Mid-Atlantic, Classic Pro Wrestling, Nova Pro Wrestling. He's also the Thumb Wrestling Champion, side note. He's one half of Cutie and the Beast. He was also on episode 21 of my other podcast, The Squared Circle Sound Off, on WLWstudios.com/Squared Circle Sound Off. He's none other than the incomparable Beau Crockett. How's it going, Beau?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. He's also part of the National Wrestling Alliance, so that's his newest tie, and that's where he's coming to Capital Wrestling for, correct?
Absolutely. The National Wrestling Alliance, the NRA, is taking over Capital Wrestling. It's taking over the East Coast.
It is. It's multiple promotions.
Absolutely. The biggest moment in Next Evolution Wrestling history when I laid out Ace Montana and Pork Chop Johnson with the steel chair, baby, and threw my hat in with the likes of Bob Evans and Tim Hughes and Preston Quinn.
Mark Bravura.
Right. Mark Bravura, the classics. Man, you can't stop the NRA. There's nothing that can stop the NRA. Nothing fancy, no flips. You do a flip in the ring with Preston Quinn, he will rip your arm out of socket. You do a flip in the ring with Beau Crockett, I'm just going to break your leg. Simple as that. Simple as that. We're going to go to town, we're going to do what we do best, beat people up, and we're going to get our money, go get ourselves another custom-made suit.
And what do you believe made you fit into the NRA?
When you have a bunch of guys with a similar mindset, a similar drive to just be the best and not have to do any fancy gymnastics, nothing flippy, nothing crazy. We don't have to do anything like that. We can settle it with our fists. We can settle it with our power. You can't match that. You can do the greatest triple double backflip with a corkscrew in the world. I don't care. It means nothing when I punch you in the face and you're looking up at me from the mat.
Especially the Superman punch.
Absolutely. Catch that Superman punch, you go night-night.
There's not much more after that one. So you feel like you possess that old school vibe. How else does everyone else complement the group?
Well, we've all kind of fallen under the leadership of Preston Quinn. He's obviously the most vocal of us all here now. But you got Bob, a genius. We know this. If PQ is the mouthpiece and he's the front man for the time being, he's the front man. We've kind of all gotten in behind him. Bob is the real brain behind the operation. Like the man is a genius. Tough Tim, man, tough does it all. He's a little crazy. He's definitely a crazy one. And the mofo, I mean, it's the name. It's right there. He's the mofo. He's a perfect fit. And I mean, look at the classics. The classics. All you gotta do is see one picture of the classics, and you know why they're in the NRA. Then there's me. I guess every group needs a pretty face. So I guess that's why they bring me along, and I do like to beat people up.
Well, that second part usually helps a lot.
Most definitely.
I mean, have you had a chance to watch the first show?
I have watched it. It is a fantastic setting. It is a crowd that it's a unique feel. I mean, just the venue itself. I mean, it just makes it stand out from your average independent promotion. I mean, when you're in a cathedral, a decommissioned cathedral, it just makes the entire product speak for itself.
It fits the theme of the National Wrestling Alliance, where they have an old school feel for the modern fan. What's your thought on that branding?
Well, it's the truth. There's still an old school feel. I'm probably the most progressive of
And the pile driver, too.
Yeah, he and Mofo are going to have pile driver contest, and the rest of us are going to keep score. And I'm going to keep a running tally of broken jaws, dislocated knees.
Yeah, make sure you bring the notepad.
The notepad. That's right. Gotta have the notepad. You know, I may sneak in a thumb wrestling match every now and then.
Watch out for your broken thumbs right there.
Yes, I will break your thumb.
But you've got guys like John Kerman, Logan Easton LaRoe, Ken Dixon. They've wrestled with you at Nova Pro, and now they've wrestled for Capital Wrestling. And they've got one heck of a roster. What are your thoughts on them and just the rest of the roster as well?
A talented bunch of guys. All jokes aside, a very, very talented crew of guys. John Kerman is about as good as they get. He's unique with that MMA style. It's interesting to watch. It brings something different to the table. Logan is Logan. He's the old champion of the 1%. He's a great mix of talent, and he's just a trip to watch. Then of course there's the other guys like Sonny Kiss. He's interesting. Mm-hmm. He reminded me of somebody I might know. Can't say enough about the rest of the NRA, obviously. And Cannonball, he's just a big, tough guy. There's a guy that you want on your side in a bar fight. It's probably him. And LSG, he's on another level as far as athleticism. Fancy gymnastics are definitely his game plan. Mm-hmm. I'll be darned if it's not fun to watch sometimes. That Phoenix splash to the floor. I mean, who else does that? I mean, I could probably read the newspaper before it came back down.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Capital Wrestling, it's a very different, fun product that I'm looking forward to be a part of.
Yeah, and we got guys like you and Anthony Gangone and all joining the second show. So I mean, it's making for a much more loaded roster.
Yeah.
With all the talent they had in the first place.
Top to bottom, it's just a great locker room full of guys that are ready to go out there and give the fans a moment that they're going to remember.
Now, do you guys have a match lined up, or are you waiting to see what your role is going to be on that show?
My role has been told to me. I think there might have been change on the old card. Last I heard, I get to go punch that bearded guy you talked to, also in this show, in the mouth. Mm-hmm. Looks like I've been told I'm being set loose on Anthony Gangone. Not exactly sure what happened with Mr. Feinstein. Pretty sure it's the Beau show against Anthony Gangone.
Oh, so a little bit of an audible there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And what the NRA wants, the NRA gets.
Getting greedy, but I guess that's nothing to be ashamed of.
Not at all.
Now, switching gears, I guess this weekend we watched this Payback and then Raw, but what were your thoughts on Payback? I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier.
It was different. I enjoyed the cruiserweight match. I enjoyed the women's match a lot, actually. A lot of elements of the women's match. I actually liked the way they had the storytelling involved with the blows to the head with Bailey. That was a good element, and I enjoyed that. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and how Alexa capitalized.
Yeah. Owens and Jericho, they could wrestle 17 times in a row, and I'll probably watch all 17 of them. Mm-hmm. They just click. It's a fun match to watch. A great way to really start things off. Especially
with the one finger, and then I guess Jericho targeting the finger the rest of the match.
Work the finger. That was fun to watch.
I guess the one match everyone's talking about is that House of Horrors.
Yeah, it was different, and I appreciate different. They took a risk. Don't know if it paid off like they wanted it to. Mm-hmm. It was definitely interesting to watch, and I don't necessarily know if it's going to be everybody's cup of tea, but there were moments in there where I think people could get on board with it. And of course, the internet reaction I have seen to it hasn't been spectacular.
Like you, I also admire doing something different outside the box, but in that regard, you have to do it, I guess, correctly. And I think it just took itself too seriously. But there were things that...
I think so. I think partway through it, I was like, can't they just let Matt Hardy produce this segment?
Yeah, exactly. You know, make it a little more campy, make it like not so full of itself. But and then the part where they're like making wrestling noises, like when they're punching and kicking inside a house, it's like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you know, there's no crowd here, right?
Yeah, but hey, they gotta do their thing, so I can't pass too much judgment. That's for sure.
I think the one thing that hurt them the most was when they decided to, well, let's do it over here, and then we have to get back to the arena with a car.
Yeah, that was definitely that confused me watching it. Yeah, you did the thing where you started in the house, but we had to wait almost an hour for the match to actually end because we had to wait for them to actually show up at the arena.
Yeah, exactly. So you had to wait for Rollins and Joe to get out of the way.
You're right. It was a calculated risk. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if they got what they wanted out of it. I can appreciate them trying something outside the box.
No, exactly. I agree. And maybe when Matt Hardy decides to get broken, they'll decide do something different then.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
But looking forward to something. And speaking of payback, I believe you guys have a match lined up in the future. You and Innocent Isaiah, you guys have a match lined up against the Carnies.
We certainly do.
Nova Pro's Great Grapsy on May 19th. What are your thoughts heading into that match?
About time.
Mm-hmm.
We need to end this experience with the Carnies. For the last 7-8 months, they've been coming into Nova Pro and treating it like their playground. Nova Pro is Cutie and the Beast stomping ground, plain and simple. That's where we were born. That's where we call home. And they have come into our house and done nothing but disrespect us and everyone in it. It's time. It's time to get real. It's time to get violent. The Carnies call the street fight that we're gonna have. They call it their playground, but they don't understand that I am no stranger to violent matches. I'm no stranger to the cage matches, to the extreme matches, to the ladder matches, to the anything goes. It's not new to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I haven't done in a long time. I guess they woke up the beast inside the cutie.
Got to scratch the itch.
That's right.
And I guess
Time to scratch that itch.
What can we expect from Isaiah? He's normally the lighthearted one of the bunch.
We can expect a different side of Isaiah. He's intense. He's more intense than I've ever seen him. He's ready. He's ready for this street fight. I'm ready for this street fight. The Carnies better not underestimate Cutie and the Beast just because this is their freak show. I don't think so. Cutie and the Beast is coming to not just win the match. We are coming to end the Carnies.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
The mission objective there on May 19th is, like you said, very simple. But the next day you're going to be at the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Expo, correct?
Yes, sir. It's going to be a huge show. It's filled with legends. The Rock and Roll Express, Nikita Koloff. Wow, the list goes on. J.J. Dillon. I believe Arn Anderson. It's huge. Animal's gonna be there. It is going to be massive.
Yeah, it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of things going on there. And will you be wrestling there at all, or just make an appearance?
I will be wrestling. Not 100% sure who I'm going to be wrestling, but I will be wrestling. PQ will also be there. So, NRA will be well represented.
Now, when you're on the card somewhere, but you're not sure who you're wrestling, how does that play into your mind, or are you just the kind of person who can adapt to things like that?
I'm really good at adapting to things on the fly as I go. That has never once bothered me. I show up. The Cutie and the Beast happened because of that. I went into the Nova Pro Wrestling show thinking that I was going to wrestle someone else, and then I got told I was going to wrestle Isaiah, and then I got told that he was going to be my tag team partner. And so you have to be willing and able to adapt and adjust your entire thought process in a 2-minute span.
Exactly. Yeah. That's if you can't do that, then I guess there won't be as many opportunities.
Absolutely. Because I mean, even if you're not told that you're going to wrestle someone different, it can be, hey, so and so's running late, got caught behind massive traffic. We're going to have to move your match to first or second.
Yeah.
When you're planning on being like semi-main event, so that changes everything. And you may only have 5 minutes to change it.
Yeah, and then 80% of it, like I've said before, 80% of it's showing up.
Exactly.
Speaking of showing up, I guess what other shows do you have on the horizon after that?
Well, this Saturday I'll be at Classic Pro Wrestling's Blaze of Glory, where I finally get to settle things with Outlaw Inc.
Mm-hmm.
And tag team match with the aforementioned tag team partner of mine. That will be Ace Montana. Things are strange in wrestling. I beat him over the head with a chair one week, but then we had to put our differences aside and be tag team partners a couple weeks later. You know how that thing.
Yeah.
That old chestnut.
Just a mood swing. Yeah, and the only difference with mood swings in wrestling is that you're swinging a chair at some point.
That's right. That will be at the King William Volunteer Fire Department in King William, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That is this Saturday. Next Saturday is my big showdown with one Mr. Eric Royal at Fusion Pro Wrestling's On Fire event, and that is at Rappahannock High School in Rappahannock, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that has a few people you may have heard of on that event as well. Nikita Koloff will be making an appearance. Tony Atlas will be making an appearance. The Barbarian, and one Mr. Badass Billy Gunn himself.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a loaded card right there.
Yes, sir. The main event is scheduled to be the Pain Train, Preston Quinn, and Tony Atlas against the Barbarian and Asafi. So he'll be taking on Barbarian and his nephew.
So what you're saying is we're going to see a lot of shooting star presses and Phoenix splashes?
Yes. Tony Atlas is working on that springboard Phoenix splash as we speak.
But I guess, and then after that, you'll be doing Capitol on June 3rd.
I certainly will. And before that, on May 27th, I will be in Elizabeth City, North Carolina for Next Evolution Wrestling, defending my championship in good old Elizabeth City, North Carolina, against Mr. Franco Varga out of Delaware.
Oh wow! So you're all over the place, man. You're going worldwide over here.
That's right. In July, I'm going back to Quebec.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you told me about that trip last time on the Squared Circle Sound Off. You do an 18-hour trip or so.
19.
No, I'm sorry, 19.
An hour shot.
Oh, I'm gypped you, man. My bad. But yeah, that is awesome, man, that you're doing that, and then Capitol, and like you said, the goal you said for the National Wrestling Alliance is to take over. What about individual goals for yourself with Capitol Wrestling?
I want to be a part of it. I want to make an impact. I know everyone says they want to make an impact, but I want to be someone that people see a Capitol Wrestling card advertised. They see the Beau Show's name on the card, and I gotta buy a ticket to see that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they want to see me win the match, whether they want to see me get beaten to a pulp, it does not matter to me. Just as long as they want to see me, mission accomplished.
You said you're going to have some new shirts available for purchase, correct?
Yes, my Spear 1, a Beau Show story t-shirts will be available. My t-shirt guy says they should be delivered by Friday, so they should be available this Saturday at Classic Pro Wrestling.
Well, if you're a fan and you'll be at the Classic Pro Wrestling show, there's a heads up right there. I mean, I've seen them, and they're very spiffy. I've got ordered one myself, so I can't wait to get it when the Great Grapsy rolls around.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to having those those shirts in hand. It's been a long time coming.
Oh, no, and they've been hyped up for a little bit now, but hey, that's part of it. The anticipation that plays a part.
Absolutely.
And before we get out of here, where can fans find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook, Beau WP Crockett, or my fan page, The Beau Show, Beau Crockett. You can find me on Twitter at It's Beau Time. You can find me on the Instagram machine at Real Beau Show. You can find Cutie the Beast on Twitter at CATBWrestling.com. I'm on Snapchat, even though I don't use it very much. It's just Beau Crockett.
He's not snapping, he's not chatting, he's just too busy wrestling.
That's exactly right.
But yeah, man, we want to thank you for coming on and, helping us talk about all sorts of things, whether it's Payback or Capital Wrestling, especially the National Wrestling Alliance. So yeah, thanks for spending some time with us.
Anytime, man. Always a pleasure.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Capital Wrestling Podcast. I want to thank my guests, Anthony Gangone, and his now updated future opponent, Beau Crockett, for coming on. You can catch us here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And you can also find us on Twitter at Capital Wrestling without the G. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Neutron. And you can also find my other podcast, The Squared Circle Sound Off, available at WLWstudios.com, on iTunes, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. So just come back here, guys, next Wednesday at 12 o'clock for a new episode. And we're actually looking to have another member of the National Wrestling Alliance on the episode, Mark Rivera. And the second guest is going to be the official, or the senior official for Capital Wrestling, and that is Mike Kenner. So we're happy to have both of them on here next week, and stay tuned for more, and we'll see you here.